Hey friends, Sean from Draft Therapy here, and on today's review for you, I present the Humble Brown. Underground Mountain Brown is an 11.9% bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Brown Ale from Founders Brewing Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The cat is out of the bag. Underground Mountain Brown, a mouthful to say, is also the fourth in Founders' highly acclaimed barrel-aged series. Now, there are no more mysteries on what the series holds for the rest of the year since CBS has already been announced. That means this year's lineup is KBS, Backwoods Bastard, the only year-round available beer in this lineup, and there'll be more on that in a second, then Agave, Underground Mountain Brown, and the upcoming CBS. Now, the reason I said I'd come back to the whole year-round thing is because while Backwoods Bastard is technically the only year-round release, it's now the middle of August, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that I'm still seeing just cases of KBS on shelves here in Michigan. And that's a great thing that such a great beer is still available, but it kind of kills the mirage that these are going to be hyper-limited beers and limited distribution going forward. Now, Underground Mountain Brown was previously known as barrel-aged Sumatra Mountain Brown because of the Sumatra coffee that's used in the base beer. And I happen to have one of those base beers here today with me, so I'm going to be comparing these two, but we're going to make that happen later on. And first, we're going to take a look at the label, and we're going to get it into a glass. Now, fun fact, Sumatra coffee comes from the Indonesian island of Sumatra, and Indonesia is the home of one of my favorite movies, The Stabilizer. Big shout out to Peter O'Brien. So let's take a look at this label. Again, we'll get it into a glass. Let me grab my glass here first. I'm going to go with last year's KBS glass. I'm going to pour it into that because that's a nice regal glass for this nice regal working man's brown ale. And I love brown ales, but let's take a look at the label here first. So this follows the same kind of design motif that the other barrel-aged series beers have. They always have Founders Brewing across the top. They always have the gold cap, and they have an embossed color around the edge of the label. This one is like a bronzy colored embossed label. It says Barrel Age Series, Founders Underground Mountain Brown, Imperial Brown Ale brewed with Sumatra coffee aged in bourbon barrels. And this has in the background on the label, it looks like it's in a cave, and it has these kind of fragments of barrels that are kind of in the form of a mountain, very reminiscent of the regular Sumatra Mountain Brown label. And then on the back here, it says, again, Barrel Age Series 2019 release, Underground Mountain Brown. Underground Mountain Brown is the harmonious drinking experience only achieved when our Imperial Brown Ale, earthy Sumatra coffee, and a year of aging in caves below Grand Rapids come together. A team of malts complement the bold Sumatra coffee perfectly, while time spent immersed in oak creates layers of depth and complexity. A celebration of the barrel, the bean, and everything in between. Then it has the bottled on date 7/29/19. So this particular bottle was bottled on July 29th. It's now August 16th. I picked this up today from the Detroit tap room. It was released in the tap room. It's going to start making distribution soon. And on the crates, it says the date that these were packaged. I also wanted to mention just really quickly that I paid $15 with deposit. So that's $14.40 plus the 60 cents deposit. It was a straight $15. I paid that directly again out of the tap room. I didn't pick this up in a store. This is directly MSRP from the tap room. I'm not sure what you're going to pay, but we're going to go ahead and crack this open because I'm looking forward to this. And yeah, again, gold Founders cap on the inside. It says Barrel Age Series. Nothing any different than any of the other ones. I'm kind of getting a little bit of a bourbon whiff filling the air as I'm speaking here. And let's get a nose on the bottle. I'm going to put my nose up to the bottle. Getting a lot of bourbony kind of smell in there, some oak in there as well. Has a nice sweet kind of coffee kind of scent in there, a nice coffee aroma. I'm also getting maybe a little bit of chocolate in there too, some of that roasted malt in there. So browns usually aren't as pronounced as porters or stouts. Let's go ahead and pour this though, and we'll get a better idea of what's going on here. Pouring out dark, but still pretty not opaque, coming directly out of the bottle here. And pouring into the glass, kind of dumping it in there. It settles the same kind of color. It's not a super dark beer. It's not super dark brown. I'm not holding it up to the light yet. I got about a finger's worth of head, a nice kind of khaki colored head, very rough and rocky, dissipating fairly, well, actually it's hanging on a little bit, but I'm just looking at this through the glass. I can already see kind of the pedestal of the glass, just holding it, or I'm just looking at it through on the counter here and holding it up to the light. It is not opaque all the way through, but it's not, I mean, I can actually barely see through it. I can just around the edges see that light kind of color. I'm kind of really looking at it, but I see my reflection more than I see the light coming through, which is kind of different considering just out of the through the counter I could see it. Let's put a better nose here out of the glass, and now the head is kind of really thin. Getting a lot of a bourbon kind of upfront aroma, like a sweet mixture of like a chocolate and a nice kind of coffee aroma in there as well. But yeah, so I'm getting a lot of bourbon, I'm getting a lot of oak, again, a little bit of coffee, a little bit of that malty, roasted malty scent, but I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. So cheers. Mouthfeel is a little bit on the light side. It's borderline thin. It's not it's what you would maybe a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter than you would expect from a regular brown ale. Um, but yeah, so I'm getting a little bit of an alcohol kind of bite, a little bit of an alcohol burn as it goes down my, it's kind of going down my throat and into my chest. I feel a little bit of an alcohol burn to it, just across the center of my chest. Getting a lot of bourbony kind of flavor up front, a little bit of oakiness to it. I'm getting a bit of kind of a light coffee taste to it. I'm getting a lot of bourbon, though, a lot of oak. That kind of maltiness, bourbony oakiness kind of almost gives this licorice kind of quality to it, like a black licorice. I'm kind of getting a little bit of black licorice taste in there as well. As I'm kind of sitting here thinking about it, this really reminds me of a less sweet um, curmudgeon's better half. So curmudgeon's better half was a little bit had a lot of that kind of licorice flavor in there as well, but it was really kind of sweet up front, a little bit thicker mouthfeel. This is lighter mouthfeel, a little less sweet licorice kind of flavor in there. A lot of bourbon again, a lot of kind of this oakiness in there as well. I'm not getting a whole lot of coffee though. Not getting a whole lot of coffee, so that's kind of where I'm going to go here and pull out this Sumatra Mountain Brown. This is the 2017 version. I ended up picking up 2 4-packs in 2017 and not going through them. So what I'm going to use is 2019's KBS glass. We're going to crack this. I know this is kind of going to be an apples to oranges kind of thing because this is an aged bottle and it's not the barrel aged version, but I want to get a taste of what the original Sumatra Mountain Brown kind of tasted like. And the color is actually very similar, coming out of the bottle at least. And collecting, I'm getting more of a head on this one, but again, that could just be that my pour was a little bit different. This is a 9%, and the head on this one's really sticking around. I'll do another overhead. You'll be able to see the head on this one. Let's move this bottle out of the way. But you'll be able to see the head was a little bit different. This one was a little bit more of a lighter head, thinner kind of head, more kind of craggy, rocky color. I'm sorry, kind of texture. The texture on this is really tight bubbles, and what I'll do is I will take the bubbles, the head on this one, and the head on the regular Sumatra Mountain Brown, and I'll stick them side by side at their kind of peak. But as you can see from this one, that head is really sticking on very well, and the color is very similar. It's actually a little bit darker brown, and of course, kind of having more of that bourbon kind of inundate everything may have actually changed a little bit of the color. But yeah, that's really white, really creamy colored head, and it is just hanging around. Honestly, not getting a whole lot of coffee out of this one too, but the coffee could have kind of dropped out of that over the 2 years that it's been sitting. I'm going to go ahead and dive right in because I want to get a taste comparison. So this over the last couple of years has kind of sweet. I feel like it's sweetened up. I always think of Sumatra Mountain Brown as being more of a kind of coffee flavor, but an earthy coffee flavor. This has a little bit more of this malty sweetness that's come through. I am getting a really slight coffee. But yeah, it just has this earthy kind of woodsy quality to it. And it's a lot sweeter than the barrel aged version. Again, this is a 2-year-old version. So, of course, flavors have changed. I want to just grab my thermometer here that I always have kind of on the forefront or just kind of by the ready. This is the Sumatra Mountain Brown. I'm letting it kind of cool down, or letting the thermometer do its thing. This is well below what I would normally serve a beer like this. This is sitting right now at just about a little under 50, right around 49.5 degrees. So that is going to be the regular Sumatra Mountain Brown, and this is the bourbon barrel age. I just want to see what the temperature got to. This is already, it is at 50, stabilized at about 53.4. I don't know if you're going to be 53.6. It's kind of, there we go. So that's 53.6. So that says 53.6% degrees. So that is about what I would normally serve a stout or something like that at. I want to get another taste. I'm going to go back and forth. Yeah, the bourbon barrel aged version, if I kind of hold it in my mouth, the mouthfeel gets a little bit creamier. As it's kind of warmed up, it feels like the mouthfeel's getting a little thicker. It's kind of, getting a little bit more substance to it. But again, it's sweet, but not overly sweet. I think the sweetness is more of the bourbon that's kind of adding the sweetness to it. And this is the non-barrel aged version. Now that I taste them side by side, they are pretty similar, but I'm getting more of the coffee, more of like this kind of dark, really bitter baker's chocolate. Really, not even semi-sweet, just really dark chocolate kind of flavor out of the non-barrel aged version. Out of the barrel aged version, it's a lot more bourbon, a lot more oakiness, a little bit sweeter. Not getting that earthy kind of quality, not really getting much of a coffee flavor at all. So I think as far as the barrel age series goes, I like this one quite a bit. I think KBS is still my number one. I think Mas Agave is probably number two, just because of how different that is. This one, I would say I was hyped for it, but not overly hyped, where I didn't really know what to expect. So I didn't get super hyped about it. But I would think this ranks number three. I still haven't had Backwoods Bastard from this year. I'm thinking that Backwoods Bastard from this year is very much like Backwoods Bastard from last year. And then, of course, we have CBS. That'll be the number 5 release. Clearly, I haven't been able to try that one yet, but I would like to kind of see how this one maybe ages, how it sits, in the bottle a little bit longer. I picked up a 4-pack, so I'll have a few left over that I can, at the end of the year, do a kind of, all-in kind of comparison. But right now, I think if I had to pick between the two, I'd probably go for the regular Sumatra Mountain Brown. If you have some of this sitting around, I think I would lean a little bit more towards that as what I would want to drink on an everyday kind of thing, or, once in a while kind of thing, over the barrel aged version. The barrel aged version is really kind of upfront bourbon. You got to get that bourbon burn at the beginning. It's good, but I wouldn't say that it's better leaps and bounds than the regular version. If you still have some of this hanging around, I would say maybe you want to skip the underground version. But if you are a bourbon fan and you like Sumatra Mountain Brown, you want to try it with the bourbon and the oak and all the aging, definitely go for it. This is by no means a bad beer. If you're a big fan of the barrel aged series from Founders, you were going to be a big fan of this. But if I had my pick between the two, if I could only pick one, I think I'd pick the non-barrel aged version, just because I like the flavors a little bit more. It's a little bit more of what I would think of when I think of an Imperial Brown. But you can't go wrong with either one. Again, if you're a big Founders Barrel Age series fan, you're going to love this one regardless. All right, friends, that has been Underground Mountain Brown from Founders, the number 4 in their Barrel Age series for 2019. Have you had this before? Have you compared it to the Sumatra Mountain Brown? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And while you're down there, if you like Michigan beer, you might want to subscribe and click that bell, because I'm here talking about Michigan beer, and you might miss your next favorite if you're not subscribed to the channel and getting those notifications. Very, very important. So until next time, I'm Sean from Draft Therapy. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. And remember, drink craft beer, support your local breweries wherever they are, and most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself to a little draft therapy. Thanks for watching. Cheers.